This time to see the US election, have to sigh, Musk is a person who does not fit in. When I read Musk's biography, I knew that Musk was a loner since he was a child, had few friends, and his hobbies and interests were relatively niche. I remembered that I had a similar experience, but now I had resigned from a law firm as I had hoped, and had become a full-time blogger. And was finally independent and free, which made me constantly reflect on why some people say that you have to fit in with the crowd. I don't know if you are usually a popular and agreeable person. When I was growing up, my parents used to say that you have to fit in or you'll be bullied. When you go to school, your teachers tell you to have a sense of collective honor and not to be out of place. After work, the boss will also say that you must have team spirit, and from time to time have to engage in a group building, forcibly enhance the feelings of everyone. There is always someone to tell you that people are inseparable from the group. Under such a concept, many people choose to be forced to integrate, afraid of not fit in with the group by other people's eyes, eager to be independent. But there is a kind of single shame, or no, they do not like to fit in with the group, but afraid to be independent, do not dare to go their own way. In this video, we use the book The Courage to be Hated as a reference, combined with the sociological principle of Hotwell, and explore with you why excessive following of the group often leads to individual mediocrity. Is there an alternative to forcing yourself to fit in? And how to achieve self-goals while not fitting in? Again, I'll share my dry notes with you, so remember to follow +3 in a row. First, let's think about the question, to what extent do you think groups care about your personal feelings? I studied law in college, and I remember in my junior year, the leader of our college called us into a meeting room for a public lecture. At the beginning, he told us that students, the first thing I want to tell you is that choice is more important than effort. If you want to go to graduate school, I strongly recommend that you go to remote places to test, because the schools in these places are easier to get into. I really can't listen to it anymore, and I turned around and left. Why did you not give face to the leader? People who study law should understand that the legal profession is an industry that eats resources, connections, and urban economic development. Without any geographical discrimination, if you want to get more legal resources in the future, you should try to go to the big city, is right. Because there are enough companies, enterprises, market business behavior is more active, you have the opportunity to expand your business. But does the leader care about that? He does not care, because you are in his eyes is actually an indicator, a string of figures. He has no interest in your life after school development. He only cares about you can find an easy to get into the school, graduate school, or simply to solve the employment problem, only the target up he can go. Therefore, a system, in fact, he does not care about a person's happiness or future development. His only care is actually to maintain their own functioning. When we are in a group of people, the repression of the self will be a lot of people have to choose a thing. You will find that we are in the young time, there will be a variety of dreams, have their own personalities, their own attitudes, but with the growth of age, we become more and more numb, tamed by society. Some time ago, I looked up the circle of friends of my former university classmates, and the general feeling was that everyone's class flavor has become heavy, and the aura that we once had is completely gone. Because the group has a natural tendency to negate the individual. And you don't need to have an aura, and you don't need to have your own ideas, and you only need to serve the group on the line. That's why Camus mentioned that any ideology is against human nature, so if you feel out of place, it's perfectly normal. Speaking of this, one may ask rhetorically, although the group does not care about the individual, but can the individual leave the group? No man is an island. The group is stronger than the individual, and it is in the group that man can survive. But I would like to ask rhetorically, is that really the case? At work, I found that there is such a phenomenon in the office. We especially like to communicate and discuss. Whether it is the leadership or colleagues once encountered a problem, they like to meet or ask the people around them. Did the crouching dragons and phoenix chicks brainstorm and come up with any constructive conclusions? And no, you will find a lot of important things, not at all from the discussion, but the depth of thinking. Under such a concept, many people choose to be forced to integrate, but afraid to be independent, do not dare to go their own way. You need to spend enough time with yourself and distance yourself from the group for you to get the results you want. The reason why we believe that conformity is very important is that before industrial civilization, humans needed to survive in groups and work together to deal with natural threats. So in this case, individual intelligence is not really that important, and staying in a group is the safest thing to do. Especially in China, due to the deep background of agricultural civilization, many people, especially the older generation of the group consciousness, is very strong. So in the eyes of many elders, alone is a bad thing. This collective cultural inertia, it has also been bequeathed to modern young people. With the emergence of industrial civilization and the world's entry into the information age, people's independence has increased dramatically. We no longer need to survive by fitting in, and society has begun to reward independent thinking and innovation. You can imagine that a person who mingles with his coworkers every day, who discusses problems whenever you encounter them, who usually drinks and sings with a group of people when he has nothing else to do. Can he have time to think about valuable things? Obviously, it is impossible. In modern society, being out of touch does not mean being detached from society. We just need a set of methodology that can guide us correctly so that our uniqueness can play a positive role. Therefore, what exactly should we do as a misfit or someone who wants to give themselves independence? Inside the observations of sociologist Venkatesh Rao, a company or organization, according to the hierarchy, probably exists the following types of people: antisocials, followers, and failures. And this hierarchical distribution is also known as the Hotwell principle. The sociopaths, located at the top of the hierarchy, are the rule makers and rule takers. They know what they want and will persevere to achieve their goals, such as company founders, bosses, successful executives, and politicians. Followers, on the other hand, are people who are particularly loyal to the organization, who work hard but lack strategic vision and influence, and who unconditionally follow sociopaths, which you can understand as hardworking employees of a company who strongly support their boss. The losers, on the other hand, are more like rowdy employees in a company who don't have much passion for their work and just go through the motions, working to pay the bills. The so-called losers here are only speaking from the organizational level, just in the eyes of the company. As far as work is concerned, they are failures. So the two questions I want to ask you now is number one, which category do you think you fall into? And the second is, what category does a misfit most likely fall into? Many people may think that misfits are only likely to be failures in an organization, but in reality, misfits can be at either end of the spectrum. They may be losers or they may be sociopaths. It may come as a surprise to you that a misfit can be at the top of an organization. Venkatesh also mentions in his article that sociopaths tend to start out as losers, people like Musk and Steve Jobs, for example, who at the very beginning were out of step with those around them, either being bullied or dropping out of school. So many sociopaths think, I'm not going to be accepted anyway, so I might as well be bold and do what I love. Think about how to make a personal computer, how to send humans to Mars, how to develop a cool app. So they establish a set of rules of their own so that many other losers who also can't fit into the existing rules will scramble to join this new organization. And so they form a new team, a new cultural group. As the influence and scale grows, what used to be a niche hobby becomes a real trendy culture, and what used to be a startup becomes a big company. The organization has influence and money, so it begins to divide into clear hierarchies. And a middle level of the organization arises, the followers, who become the backbone of an organization and begin to serve the sociopath. In this way, a new organization with influence and new rules was born. Therefore, there is a great probability that the misfit will have two outcomes in the organization. The first is to become an opinion leader, founder, and leader. The second is to be at the bottom of the whole organization, among the losers, because they do not like this set of rules, cannot be integrated into it, but also worried that away from this set of rules cannot survive, so they force themselves to fit in the final result. Doomed will not be too good. At this point, one might ask, if a misfit can't be a sociopath, is he only a loser? But in fact, outside of these three, there is another kind of person called a self-expressionist. Writers, artists, researchers in a certain field, craftsmen, and so on, derive pleasure and a sense of accomplishment by immersing themselves in their favorite things, and instead of creating rules and organizations like sociopaths do, they focus on what they love. You will find that a person who is difficult to fit in fact, the biggest fear is not to establish their own rules and circles, but also cannot find their favorite things. There is no way of self-expression. Then at this time, the person will produce a kind of existential anxiety. Therefore, if you are a person who does not want to fit in, then you have two choices to find your own value. The first is to have your own way of self-expression, and the second is to establish your own rules and circles. Both sound like they are difficult. How should we go about achieving this? Instead of forcing ourselves to fit in, we should find something meaningful to do and invest our time in ourselves. Knowledge and cognition that once nurtured will stay with us for the rest of our lives. I recently read this quote in the book, "When you are like a bird flying to your mountain." I decided to study not because I thought education would allow me to change the world, but because I knew it would allow me to change myself. Society always likes to say that you should do what you do at what stage. And the essence of that statement is really that most people do what they do at what age, and you should do the same thing. I do not agree with this assertion, because not everyone's life is a linear unfolding. Some people may be a late bloomer, such as Ren Jingfei in the founding of Huawei has been 43 years old. Some people may be a little precocious, such as lay military 2 years of time to finish the university program, graduated from the Join the Kingsford. They do not have in what stage only do students will study well, only read the holy books, do not think about making money. Or people have been more than 40 years old, but also what to create a business. That's all there is to life. Therefore, many people who are not in step with the development of the group in the early stage will be regarded as a person who does not have a big picture view. I do not know what to do, especially in a collectivist culture prevails in the society. This kind of people will be ostracized, will be more serious. And it is this nonlinear growth path often contains a breakthrough and innovative factors. This trait, by the political commentator David Brooks, called the big late personality, big late personality. There are just 3 traits, which are rebelliousness, curiosity, and self-drive. You will find that these 3 traits are all disliked by the group. If you have a rebellious spirit, the group will think you are unruly. If you have curiosity, the group will think you are unprofessional. If you have self-driven power and do not follow blindly, the group will think you are noble and out of place. Therefore, the group tends to see these misfits as trouble, and tries to forcefully reform them by asking them to give up these 3 traits. And in the face of such a contradiction, many people either compromise and force themselves to fit in, or they get into violent conflict with the group. Yet both of these approaches ultimately struggle to bring about the desired results. Therefore, can we still have a third option? Can we integrate into society and find our own value while maintaining independent thinking? To find a solution, we need to start with these 3 characteristics to find the answer. First of all, when it comes to the spirit of rebellion, the author of the book The Courage to be Disliked mentions that it is very important to choose the approval of others or the freedom of not being recognized. A lot of people are both misfits and unfree, and this phenomenon stems greatly from the reward and punishment that we have been taught. If we do a good job, we will be praised, and if we don't do a good job, we will be criticized. This kind of reward mechanism makes us gradually change from doing the right thing to doing the thing that can get praised. Only can get praise, we will do, and if a thing, even if again meaningful, we like to do, but because no one appreciation we do not want to do not dare to do. You will find that reward and punishment education, it is fully consistent with the psychological cycle of rewards, triggering behavior rewards repetition. As long as the family, school, and company clever use of reward and punishment mechanism, they can easily manipulate the individual, so that people unconsciously give up their own goals, and even wrongly believe that the problem is their own body. As a result, many young people are taught to go to 2 extremes under reward and punishment, either becoming obedient sheep or rebellious youths. It should be noted that the spirit of rebellion and rebellion are completely different. The rebellion here, in fact, is still trapped in the reward and punishment education, because the rebellious young people cannot be appreciated to win the attention and recognition of others. So they went to the other extreme, that is, in a completely negative way to win the attention of others, so that they in front of others appear cool, which is essentially still have not jumped out of the reward and punishment education. Is still the pursuit of attention and recognition of others, and the true spirit of rebellion is no longer deliberately seeking recognition, have the courage to be hated. Many people think, if I don't seek the approval of others, doesn't that make me a hated person? How can this work? What's the difference between that and rebellion? So first of all, let's ask you a question. Do you think that a person who cares too much about other people's feelings and opinions is also an extremely self-centered person? Many people may think that this question itself is problematic. A person who cares about the views and feelings of others should be a person who thinks about others in every way. How can it be extremely self-centered? But in fact, in Adler's view, desperately seeking approval is also a manifestation of self-centeredness. Because the reason why we care about the views of others, because we want the world to run in the way we want it to run. If other people think that I don't fit in, or don't like me, which may be detrimental to me. So yeah, I'm gonna have to change what others think of me, and I can't accept the fact that others don't like me. This is the reason why many people are both misfits but not free. Faced with such a dilemma, Adler proposed a solution called subject separation. Previously, Mr. Dabing in the live broadcast, even when met the black powder, this black powder came up to say, I found you always give a kind of superior feeling, in general, maybe very angry, eager to refute. But Mr. Big Ice but slowly said, you are right. The black fan froze for a moment and said, I'm right. Big Ice then explained, as long as you add the 3 words you feel, everything you say is valid. There is nothing greater than the subjective perception of the individual. Others do not have the need and obligation to change you. As long as you add the 3 words you feel, it is all right. Big Ice teacher in this place to respond very well, because whether the other side feel good or in fact is the other side of the true feelings. They do not have the need and cannot be forced to change the other side's feelings. If you have to argue on this issue, the result must be that the other side won. Because the other side's feelings, it is true for his own. Black Powder heard this sentence, also froze for a moment, and then a series of attacks. What you write the book is worthless, feel you in the yin and yang eyes. Big Ice teacher, is still that meaning, you are right, this is your subjective feelings. For you are on the black powder that all hit the cotton, that a moment it is, but also very embarrassed, and then withdrew from the library. Mr. Big Cake used to be a controversial person, I don't know too much, also don't judge, but from this incident alone, he did a good job of separating the subject. The so-called subject matter is someone else's subjective feelings and choices, and we are always in the habit of interfering with other people's subject. When others don't like us, we either angrily try to retort or try to please them. Similarly, when we think others are wrong, we are often eager to correct and attempt to change them. And the main trouble with relationships comes from the fact that, firstly, we willingly allow others to interfere in our subject matter, allowing those around us to make decisions for us, to remake ourselves according to their ideas and wishes. The second is the attempt to forcefully interfere in other people's subjects, where they don't meet our expectations. And we have to find ways to change that, and that's why we're both out of touch and not free. And to get out of this dilemma, we need subject separation, where we neither interfere with other people's subjects nor allow our own subjects to be interfered with by others. And where judging whose subject it really is simply a matter of looking at who is taking the consequences for the choice. For example, if this black fan thinks that Mr. Big Ice is superior and his work is worthless, then this is his choice. And it has nothing to do with Mr. Big Ice. And Mr. Big Ice is completely right in choosing not to interfere with this black fan. Because you are different, people around you look at you differently, then it is theirs. Just like a friend of mine, because the company colleagues are isolated. So in the office crying, questioning why people do not like themselves, why do not accept themselves, the final result. He couldn't stay in the company any longer, and the benefits of forced interference on relationships are almost. And what about not letting our subjects be interfered with by others? Instead, we leave the decision to ourselves. Many people are also used to interfering with us with the attitude that it's for their own good. But in reality, it's just to make us do what they want. And at this time, we should also recognize that the matter at hand is our own subject. We are already adults. Also for their own choices to take responsibility and the ability to obligation, so that we are a free person. Therefore, the first thing we need to do to make ourselves independent and free is to have the courage to be hated. Many people think that those who are free and easy, do not fit in are extremely self-centered people. But in fact, do not fit in people tend to be very respectful of diversity. They are neither forced to fit nor forced to interfere in the require others must like themselves. In modern terms, it is a sense of boundaries. They are instead very open and tolerant. Therefore, you can try 2 methods. The first is that you can make a list of to see what meaningful things are not praised by others, but you still love to try to do these things without utilitarian. Secondly, when others don't like you, can you let go of the perception and urge to change them? This is the first step that misfits need to take. Yet then, it's not enough to do a good job of separating the subjects, so let's move on to step 2, curiosity. As my longtime fans know, I used to work in the legal profession, and at that time I predicted my future would be nothing more than finding a job and being satisfied with a steady income. If you let me guess at that time, I would not have guessed 10,000 times that I would become a full-time up master. And then when I was working, because I always liked to read, I ran a book club in my spare time, and I did not expect that in less than half a year's time, the members have grown to hundreds of people. Inside the book club, there are many members who graduated from prestigious universities, only according to the academic point of view. In my book club, I am the one who needs to be educated the most. I did not expect that now actually began to educate others. Many times we think that the key to having an ideal life is to determine what you want and then work hard to achieve it. But in fact, from a psychological point of view, you cannot predict what will make you happy. Like the beginning I did not think I could become a blogger to make money by their own hobby, When I read bloggers are not even considered a career, almost no one is to make money by being a blogger. Even the idea of organizing a book club came to me on a whim. But it was because I explored along my curiosity step by step that I realized there were so many possibilities in life. As noted author Brianna Wiest mentions in his book 101 Essays to Change Your Mind, your brain can only comprehend the information he knows. So when you choose the future you want, you're really just creating an idealized scenario based on the past. If things don't go the way you want them to, you think you failed because you didn't create what you wanted, when in reality you created something better, but he's foreign to your brain. So the brain misinterprets it as bad, and the group gives us all the same goal. The only way we can get ahead is to get into a good school and get a good job. We willingly allow others to interfere in our subject matter. And to get out of this dilemma, we need subject separation. They are neither forced to fit in nor forced to interfere. Your brain can only comprehend the information he knows. Many people's lives are nothing more than 2 points and 1 line. The company is nothing more than another form of school, going to school, going to school, going to work, going to work. In fact, there is no essential difference. That of course may be at work someone is paying you, and at school it may be the other way around. So many people don't see any kind of alternative possibilities. So our brain arranges a future for itself based on this preconception, thinking that it can only travel along the established route. That the only way to fit in is to fit in, that the only option is the one in front of us. We mentioned before, a misfit is very afraid of things is no self-expression avenue. You do not have a thing you are willing to do from the heart. Not in the direction of their own interest in any kind of exploration, so we simply do not know what things are not their own. So we think that their life monotonous, the future of the darkness, and thus produce a kind of strong existential loneliness. To solve this problem, you need to use your curiosity. Do not use your brain to provide you with preconceptions, because your brain does not know what you want. Act on your curiosity first, and in the process you will discover many things you never noticed before, and these new discoveries will help you find your own unique way of expression. Of course, we must also recognize that no man is an island. Adler also mentions that the ultimate destination of relationships is to build a sense of community, and that even people who don't fit in, or who want to have independence, need to have some sense of belonging. This sounds like a contradiction. Then next, we will talk about the third trait, self-drive. Once a classmate who had not seen me for many years suddenly contacted me one day, thinking that he also wanted to do self-media, and hoped that I could take him, but because I was really busy, I had to politely decline. So he complained to me that he did not have such a circle around him. No one can help and understand him, and he felt very lonely. So I asked him, if you are in such a circle, what can you contribute to? He said, I am still a beginner and have nothing to contribute. I said it is normal that you can't enter this circle. Misfits usually stem from the fact that we have trouble finding like-minded people in our lives. Statistically speaking, it's not unusual to have a lack of people around you with similar interests and values. The problem is how we deal with it. Many people choose to close themselves off when they can't find a place to belong. If they can't be accepted at work or school, they retreat to their dormitories and homes, hanging out only with roommates and family. If even their roommates and family can't understand them, they close themselves off completely and become an almost solitary person. But Adler believes that we should always seek a larger circle. There are countless circles in the world beyond the current living environment. Especially in the age of the internet, you can reach almost anyone and expand your group. There is always someone who shares your love of reading, crafts, music, technology, philosophy, and more. Besides having a rebellious spirit and curiosity, the last thing we should have is self-drive. We shouldn't be reactive to the relationships in our lives, shrinking back into smaller circles at the first sign of frustration. We should always seek to be part of a larger community, and the way to be part of it, according to Adler, is to contribute. Many people have developed a mindset of wanting during their childhood and student years. There was a time when there was always someone to help us with what we wanted. There was always someone to answer any questions we had. And so we were always thinking about taking, and we stood still and kept complaining, why can't anyone understand me? Why are there no such resources around us? The world is not centered on you. No one will help you for no reason. During my time as an upvoter, I've met many other upvoters, and have a small circle of my own. And the way we established connections was by each other's works. We provided help to each other through our works, so we established connections. And the important thing is to find people on the road, not to find people on the road. When we are not yet in a position to provide help to others, We should continue to invest in ourselves so that we can become people who can create value for others. Don't expect someone to come out of the sky and pull you out of the status quo. Only when you are able to create value will you be able to gather the circle that belongs to you, and you will be able to find your own sense of belonging in the process of contributing. Those are the 3 traits we talked about, and I wouldn't say I'm necessarily doing a great job at all 3 of them right now. But I'm much more free and independent now than I was in the past when I was forcing myself to fit in with the group. I hope you can have the courage to be hated, follow your curiosity, do what you really love, and find your sense of belonging by creating value.